Madison Cork Dork. Instead of going over a particular grape, I will be discussing what is currently going on in the world of wine during COVID-19 and what some of the impacts might be during this tragic time. First and foremost, I need to let you know a little bit about what was happening in the industry prior to the pandemic. Wine sales have been on the decline for a few years now. With the passing of legal marijuana, several states consumers are looking for a different alternative to get their buzz, so to speak, and that is the conventional wisdom. In fact, one of the world's largest wine distributors, Constellation, sold off $1.1 billion worth of their brands to another of the world's largest distributors, and that is Gallo. Constellation then used this money to cover part of their expenses on a prior investment in a cannabis company. Now, whether that gamble will pay off remains to be seen. Another trend that has been going on for quite some time is that millennials, or my awesome generation that apparently is ruining everything, and Generation Z have no brand loyalty. Now, this means that it is harder for sales reps and buyers in restaurants and retail stores to determine what is worth buying large quantities of. As baby boomers and Gen X become a smaller share of the market, this trend will not change. What we do know is that wine sales are up during this time of COVID-19. As funny as this might sound to the consumer, it is not unexpected. During times of financial crisis, alcohol sales go up. One might assume that this is a way for people to drown their sorrows. I do not entirely suspect this to be the case right now. Another question is, how will this impact the 2020 vintage? Believe it or not, different vintages do taste differently. Coming from a state that is primarily rural, Iowans should not be surprised about this fact. We all know whether this year's sweet corn was better than last year's, for example. Planting, growing, and harvesting wine is no different than any other crop. Timing is key, and mitigating threats to this year's crop is just as important. I don't think that the 2020 vintage is going to be of poor quality based on the coronavirus. All agriculture is considered essential, and farming grapes is no different than farming corn. We will not definitively know how well the 2020 vintage is until 2021 or 2022, depending on when each varietal is bottled. Going back to millennials and Gen Z, we are more likely to explore different kinds of wine. Both generations like a good story with wine. Thanks to the fact that we were raised on the internet, we know how to do our own research instead of relying on sole magazines like our predecessors would. Instead, we want to learn as much as we can before we make an investment. Wine is considered more of an investment than beer. If you open a bottle of wine, it will generally be drunk in 3 days. Liquor takes a long time to go bad, and beer can be drunk in one sitting. A bottle of wine demands more time to be enjoyed than a bottle of beer, and less time to be enjoyed than a bottle of whiskey. So when you combine research, a lack of brand loyalty, and investment attitude towards a bottle of wine, you should get a decent size of the market trying new things. I suspect that there will be even less brand loyalty and varietal loyalty. Maybe domestic Cabernet, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay sales will decline and international varietals will increase. I started to notice that Argentine Malbec sales were on the rise. Maybe that is a category positioned to explode. Maybe Merlot's positive trend will grow exponentially. Maybe we'll discover that Australia actually makes good Riesling after all. You should have noticed that I did not mention any of the EU countries. This is because of our trade war with the EU that has led or will lead to an increased cost to the consumer. During times of financial distress, the average consumer will still not want to pay more for wine. That much is certain. So, take this time to learn about wine. Be critical of it. Learn to savor it. Let your sensations of smell and taste guide what you're experiencing. And when we get to the other side of this, maybe we'll have a preference of Washington State Merlot as opposed to our current preference of California Cabernet. Anyway, this is Mark, your Madison Cork Dork. Join me tomorrow when I will go over the controversial and super awesome Judgment of Paris that took place in 1976. Thank you for watching.